Treasurer Scott Morrison is stepping up his battle with the big banks to stop them ripping off customers with unwarranted rate rises. Our finance editor Ross Greenwood joins me now. Good morning to you, Ross.
Good morning.
The Treasurer's talking tough.
He is talking tough. And I mean, this is really going to be a battle between the banks because on one side, remember that you've got Ken Henry, who's the chairman of the National Australia Bank, the former Treasury Secretary of Australia, the man who had his hands on the levers of the controls of our economy. Now, the fight between Scott Morrison and Ken Henry is an absolute beauty because they've both got knowledge, they've both got skin in the game, and right now Ken Henry, the man who argued for the mining tax, the resources super profits tax, is arguing against a back tax. Now, the public, of course, are sitting there going, well, what does it mean for us? And as we've said, well, the banks, if they possibly can, will pass it on to you. But what Scott Morrison is saying, well, I'm going to get the ACCC, the competition regulator, to come in and see whether any rate rises, whether any price increases are justified, and I'm also going to try and increase the competition on those banks to make certain they don't pass those rate rises on.
What's on the Treasurer's side is there's very little sympathy in the public arena for the banks because of those multi-billion-dollar profits that they make.
Well, not only those multi-billion-dollar profits that they make, $30 billion a year, everybody knows that's big. They are the 4 biggest companies in this country. But on top of that, what you also know is that they have actually stared down in the last little while, courtesy of the government, a royal commission. There have been massive calls, even from inside the coalition, for a royal commission into the banks and their poor behaviour in financial planning. If Bill Shorten and Chris Bowen become the next government in Australia, they've already said that they will call for that royal commission into the banks. So the banks have got to be very careful what they wish for right now. They're trying to fight off this. Now, one part about this is if the banks try and actually pass any of these rate rises on, it's up to consumers to do something about it. So here's a quick little observation this morning. The National Australia Bank, its standard variable rate right now, you might get a reduction on this, is 5.32%. It was very easy to find that HSBC has got a standard variable rate at 3.75%, that loans.com.au 3.64%, UBank, which is owned by the National Australia Bank, mind you, owned by the National Australia Bank, its online bank, 3.74%. You do not need to pay what the big banks charge you.
So it's only the big 5 banks that are being affected by this levy.
So the big 4 plus Macquarie.
So with UBank, given that it's owned by NAB, is that going to be affected by the levy?
Well, it may be, but it's going to be at the margin because you can already see the difference.
Yeah.
Now, even if you get a discount of 1% off the NAB's rate, so from 5.32 to 4.32, well, you'd still say you'd go to their own bank online and get a 0.6% discount off that.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't do that, then you're adding to the profits of the banks.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's really an important thing that people understand competition. But, of course, for many people, they say, well, it's too hard to change, it's too hard to move. Well, actually, if you don't, you're costing yourself money potentially. This is where the fight comes down to. I've got to say, it's a very, very interesting philosophical conversation.
Sure is. Thanks a lot for that, Ross.